Billy Burns, Irish replacement fly half, has copped a fair bit of stick over the last few days. If you guys were not aware, if you didn't pay any attention to the Six Nations, Billy Burns came on for Jonathan Sexton midway through the second half in a close fought game against Wales. Ireland, despite having a red card early on, was still within a try of winning the game. With 14 men, which was an incredible performance in its own rights. After Wales make a mind-bogglingly foolish, I guess you want to say, kick to give Ireland possession back right as the clock is going into the red, Ireland win a penalty and have a chance to kick it into touch and potentially set up for a maul, which may be the winning of the game for them. However, if you didn't watch the game, if you did, you know where I'm going with this. He misses touch. He kicks the ball dead. He's trying to chew off as many meters as he can, but he pushes it too far, and he pushes it quite too far, actually. It's a poor kick, and the thing goes dead. He is absolutely slammed by critics all over the place. People are tagging him on Twitter, saying what a rubbish performance that was, that he's a British spy, he's working with the enemy, all this kind of stuff. He's been given absolute stick for it. And yeah, some would say deserved, man. Some would say you're a professional sports person, you got social media accounts, you open yourself up for criticism. That's the line of work you work in, so it kind of comes with the high pay and the prestige of when you do things well. Other people would say, man, leave the guy alone. And, everyone makes mistakes. I tried to think, and these are just off the top of my head, of some other times where this kind of situation has happened. And I'll come back to Billy Burns in a tick. But I thought of three just off the top of my head of situations where right at the death, a mistake or poor decision or whatever it was by a certain player cost their team pretty badly. And how did they recover from it? The first one I could think of was Israel Folau. I'm not sure if you guys have seen this game. It's a few years ago now. They're playing Argentina. They're at home. Argentina haven't beaten the Wallabies for a long time. It's a pretty average game from memory, but right towards the death of the game, the Wallabies are making a good counter-attacking play. Folau's got one man outside him as he's charging towards the try line. The winger kind of bites in, so he's essentially got a man outside him with a free run at the try line if he passes it. I don't remember if he dummies. I'll see if I can find the clip. But he takes the ball to the line, which is, in hindsight, absolutely the wrong choice. And he knocks the ball on. The game is done. Argentina get a famous victory over in Australia. So yeah, it was a really bad decision from him. But I think surprisingly, the fallout, I don't remember it being that bad. I'm not sure if it's at the time Folau was one of the stars of Aussie rugby. He was probably their best player at that time, or at least one of them, maybe their best back before all the social media controversy with him. He got over it relatively lightly. Maybe it's because the context of the game. If it had been against the All Blacks to win the Bledisloe Cup, probably would have gone on for a lot longer. But it was a game against Argentina, which probably in the scheme of things, I don't remember if it was particularly costly or not. But it was just kind of let go. It was a bit of a thing, but after too long, we didn't really remember it. And maybe the same thing will happen with Billy Burns. We will see. But you got to wonder if how his career will recover from this. It's a question anyway. Another one was Stephen Donald, and this is maybe a bit more similar because he played the same position. If you remember Stephen Donald, he was an All Black fly half. He played famously in the 2011 Rugby World Cup as our fourth choice guy. So you remember back in those days, Dan Carter was always our man, and we never really had a clear number two guy. We cycled through several different options. For a while, it was Stephen Donald, and there was one game where we played the Wallabies in Hong Kong, and he came on for about 20 minutes and had a pretty poor game. He missed a penalty to take the score to 8 points, and essentially would have won the game for the All Blacks. It was a relatively straightforward penalty, not one that you get 10 times out of 10, but he missed it pretty poorly wide. And then later on, when the Wallabies are hot on attack, the Wallabies knock it on, there's advantage. Stephen Donald only needs to kick it into touch to take play way down the other end of the field, but he misses touch and the Wallabies have a chance to run it back down, and eventually they go through some phases and score a try. He was absolutely public enemy number one after that game. His All Blacks career was essentially done at that game because there were other guys there or thereabouts for that backup to Dan Carter position. Yeah, people lost all faith in him, which may be where Billy Burns is right now with the Irish rugby public. However, his story kind of ends in a bit of a fairy tale because at the World Cup 2011, Dan Carter gets injured, so they bring in kind of Colin Slade as the number one guy. Colin Slade gets injured, they have Cruden as the number one guy, and Donald gets called up as his backup. In the final, Cruden gets injured, so Donald has to see the game out in a shirt which is far too small for him. He has one kick at goal which he gets, and that kick essentially is enough to win the Rugby World Cup. He only just snuck the bloody thing in between the sticks. It wasn't a great kick, but it was between the sticks. To the point where he is a much loved guy, won the bloody World Cup after we hadn't won it for so long. They made a TV movie about it, just called The Kick, kind of about his position as backup to Dan Carter, right down to public enemy number one, and then back up to national hero with that kick. Fairy tale story for him, from kind of villain to hero. Yeah, you get both as a sportsman. The other one I thought of, which has got the Irish connections, Ronan O'Gara. If you're thinking about that Lions tour in 2009, the score is all tied up in maybe a sensible mind. It's probably best for the Lions to kick the ball out because time is up on the clock and just take the draw, which will mean the series is still alive. But Ronan O'Gara from his own 22 runs it up, does an up and under. He tries to regather it and ends up taking out the South African 9 in the air, which concedes a penalty, which the South Africans go and kick, and the game is theirs. Now that one's quite a while ago. I'm sure he got absolute stick for it at the time, and he's probably lucky social media wasn't really such a thing in 2009 compared to now. But yeah, he recovered relatively well. Like Ronan O'Gara is still a relatively well-regarded guy in Irish sports, isn't he? He's on all kinds of, like he's on off the ball and whatnot pretty frequently. His opinion seems to be pretty well respected, so he seemed to make a recovery. So that brings us back to Billy Burns. Is it fair to give him all this kind of criticism? Is his Irish career over? I wouldn't have thought his Irish career should be over based on that, but he will need to take some time to recover from it. I had a look at the match stats. Ireland tackled at 87%, so there's some missed tackles there. Ken Healy missed 4 tackles in that game, but we don't give him the same kind of stick because it was that last moment. It's if you make a mistake at the last moment, that's when you're kind of public enemy number one. Johnny Sexton had 5 turnovers conceded. Earls had 3. James Lowe had 2. Josh van der Fleer had 2. Gary Ringrose had 1. But again, you don't really think about that stuff because it happened during the match. Do you know what I mean? Like if Ringrose knocks it on with nobody around him right on full time, maybe he's public enemy number one. But because you do it during the game, it doesn't really matter. Also, they had a red card to Peter Romani. I know he's been kind of public enemy number 2 behind Billy Burns. They had 11 penalties conceded. You got to give some credit to Wales. They tackled at 90%. Ireland's lineout was 7 from 9, which is 77%. So there were mistakes throughout the game. It happens. It's just the fact that that mistake happened right at the end of the game, which is a pretty brutal one. And should he be making that mistake? No, but obviously mistakes happen. We're all human. So I hope Billy Burns gets over this one. I hope the Fury kind of dies down a bit relatively soon. I think all of these guys from these particular incidents were able to recover from it pretty quickly once they got back to playing. I mean, his brother had a pretty famous howler with Bath, right? Where he was celebrating, and then one of the Toulouse players, I think it was, knocked the ball out of his hands and made him look like an absolute fool. But he recovered from that, albeit it wasn't an international level game. But anyway, it happens. It's part of the sport. There's just something about it. If it's that last moment, you're in big trouble. It's the same if a referee makes a poor decision at that last moment. If you've made all the rest of the decisions well, it's not really going to matter. It's going to be that last decision that everyone talks about. That's just the way we are wired. But anyway, you guys let me know what you think about Billy Burns. Is he deserving some of the flack that he's getting for that bad mistake? Do you back him for trying to chew off those meters to give his forwards the best chance to score that try at the death? Do you see him playing again for Ireland, or do you think they need to give him a bit of time away from the media spotlight? You guys let me know your thoughts. I hope his career's not done. I hope he gets another crack. But anyway, you guys let me know your thoughts. Hope you get soon. See you later.